You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur. Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, brought to you today by Party Slate, the first website designed specifically for event professionals and venues. Check them out at partyslate.com. So I'm recording this at the very end of April. I'm getting ready to celebrate a birthday and going to New York City. Going to see my daughter, going to bring my fiance with me, see my brother and his family. Also going to have some meetings. I'm excited to meet with Preston Bailey, who I think you all know by now. I'm producing a podcast for him called Stop and Smell the Roses. So I'm going to hang with Preston. Going to also see some other people. Also thinking about all of you listening. And I hope that at this time, you're starting to feel some hope with the end of COVID coming. Hopefully, all of you are starting to get some business back. I'm starting to get it back. I'm also feeling kind of mixed. I mean, obviously, I want this all to be over and go back. But at the same time, after being in this situation for a year, I kind of have some mixed feelings about it. I mean, you know, there's been certain parts of it that have been really beneficial. You know, being able to just kind of chill out a bit and really re-examine what's meaningful. And I've been thinking a lot about my businesses, the podcast business, the music business, and how I want to go forward with it. So I hope that all of you also have this opportunity to kind of reevaluate. And I'm going to be interviewing certain people who we all know to talk about how they feel about business starting to come back. So anyhow, today's special guest is Lauren Dickens, founder and lead planner and designer with Elle Audrey, a luxury planning and design company based in New York City. And their tagline is distinctively designed with you in mind. So enjoy my conversation with Lauren Dickens. Hey, Lauren, it is so good to have you on the show. I know you helped me with the next level a month or so back. It's good to have you as the feature.
Yes, I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah. So, first thing I want to start with is there's a quote on your website, which is really sweet. It's really nice. And I'd love to hear a little more about it. You say a wedding is a transformative journey.
It is.
How is it transformative? I love that.
Well, on many levels, it's transformative for the client, because especially if this is their first wedding, if they've never been married before, if they've never been in a wedding, it's something new that you're experiencing, and it will definitely transform your relationship with your partner, because it's an experience that you guys will enjoy together with your families. There's so many learning moments that happen because people have this idea, from Instagram or other social media platforms that, I want this wedding and it's going to cost me XYZ dollars. In reality, it costs way more than what they think. Like, I wish we could put a price tag on what the weddings we do cost. But just going back a moment. So all of that, helps them understand the wedding planning process or event process better. And that is why I say it's a transformative experience. And then in terms for myself, for me, it's a transformative experience because I am able to take a blank slate venue. Even if the venue has some good bones, to me, it's still blank slate because I'm going to transform that venue into my client's wedding or event, because my goal is to create an event distinctively designed with my client in mind. So instead of having the same wedding that Sue and Jack had last week at that same venue, we're going to create a wedding that is for Jennifer and John. And so we're going to transform that space, whether it's lighting, drapes, flooring, rentals, and that's what makes it that transformative experience.
You know what else I think when you said that in the beginning about how it is for the couple, I believe that the way a couple, does their wedding kind of indicates how their couple is going to be, like how they're going to do their couple.
Yeah. Well, then that means most of these women are in charge.
and some of the mothers of the women are in charge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so funny, Lauren. There's so many times because what I do with my music entertainment company, it's not just book a band. I like do a whole thing about creating an experience. It's real personalized. And I get into these meetings too. And Oh my God. I mean, what we have seen, in terms of the battles and the fighting and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. But anyway, so, well, did was there, did you have a passion for event design when you were really young? Like, when did this manifest for you?
I wouldn't say event design when I was really young.
Or the love of parties and stuff like that?
Yeah, I would say, the love of parties started when I was young with my grandmother. She loved to entertain, and just kind of watching her with her events with our friends and family just kind of made me enjoy it. And, she would teach me how to set a table, how to set up things, how to, plan for X amount of people. And, I don't think at the time she thought that I would become a wedding and event planner. I
Right.
thought, she just thought that she would be teaching me how to host and how to be an entertainer like she was.
Oh, God, isn't it interesting? Is so many people have elements of what they do now in their childhood, and
Right.
or being exposed to it by their parents. Well, so how did you take it further? I mean, did you do anything in high school? Did you go to college and do anything related to this? Like, when did it actually start to become something?
No, actually, and none of it happened until my adult life. So in college, I will say that I did host a few parties at my apartment. And that kind of was a little bit of the start of it. But once I got into corporate America, when I got out of college, I got a job with Target, and I worked with Target for about 4.5 years. And then at that point is when I span off and decide I want to be an entrepreneur and start my event business. But what got me there was hosting a friend's baby shower. I got so deep dived into that baby shower that, from there, other friends and guests were, oh, wow, you did such a great job. Can you help me with mine? And it became like a side hobby. And then I helped with a cousin's baby shower. It just kind of span off from there. And I started doing a lot of social events. So baby showers, birthday parties, things like that. And then finally, a colleague from my job at Target hired me to plan her engagement party. And from there, I did her engagement party and was able to do her wedding. And she was my first client, which was an LGBT couple. And most people are like, oh my God, your first client was an LGBT couple. And that's not typical, right? But that was my first client. And then from there, I started working with magazines to do like styled shoots. And I worked with The Knot and Wedding Wire to set up my profile there. And then I just kind of started to get business and started picking up.
But here's the thing, though, Lauren, still, I mean, to have a job, where you're earning a definite income and then to take that leap, was it hard for you? What was that like?
It was very hard. I would say the first few years, thank God I had a decent savings. I mean, I wouldn't probably suggest it to someone going into this now. I would say, build up your following, get enough clients, and then get to a point where you should leave your job, not leave your job. And then,
you went for it totally.
But that's just kind of my personality. Like, I'm a big risk taker. So, it was very challenging in the beginning. But I figured out how to scale my business. And once I figured that out, there was no stopping.
Well, so let's talk about this, in terms of, is there a way that you can identify some facets of your personal signature? Is there anything that just screams out, this is, my brand, this is who I am, that's really different from others?
For me, I would say that I try to, like I said before, create a personalized experience for my clients. I don't like cookie cutter, and I think a lot of people come to me for that. And they also come to me for my personality and the relationship that we have. So a lot of my brides, what their feedback was is how we became friends afterwards, how I helped them through the process, and how I created an event that was distinctive to them. And then them telling their friends and family, and then their friends and family wanting the same thing. And I think that is what has become my signature, the relationship that we have and the uniqueness that we create, whether it's within stationery, like I mentioned before, with Papered Wonders, or our other vendors who can create different event elements that are distinctive to that client, whether it's their logo or monogram or some creative design detail that is representative of them, no one else can have unless they plan on copying, if that makes sense.
Right, right. No, it does. So can you take me through your general process from when you first meet with a client to how you then manifest the vision? And, what can even if you use a particular example, up to you, but can you describe that to me, how you go about doing this?
Sure. So when a client reaches out to us, my assistant has a consultation call with them. And then from there, we gather whether this is a good fit for us, because not everybody is good to fit. And I think that a lot of planners, especially when you're first starting out, it's like, I need every job I can get, but not every job is a good job. You want to make sure that that client is a good fit with your personality and vice versa. I tell my clients all the time, this is a relationship. Like, say, for instance, all our clients who were supposed to get married in 2020, we have been now in relationship with each other for the past 2 years. They hired me in 2019.
Right. And it's so emotional. I mean, it's just so emotional.
So you have to have a good relationship with your planner who is like kind of the captain of your wedding, right? Driving that ship. So that's why I always say it's very important to make sure you have a good connection. And if I don't get a job, it's okay because it wasn't meant for me. I'm kind of derailing. Let me just get back to
No, I love that though. That's an important point to make. I mean, I think that you're right. A lot of new planners, feel certainly not desperate, but feel like, we got to get that, how can I turn anything down? And I think you're right. I mean, you've got this relationship for at least 9 months, probably a year, even a year and a half. It is highly emotional. They really depend on you. And I think you're right. The personalities have to align.
The personalities definitely have to align. Absolutely. Because then otherwise you have a situation where, gosh, I really don't want to talk to my planner, or I don't want to talk to this client because we don't get along. We don't see eye to eye. And then what do you do?
Right.
And that's another whole I'd rather not talk about, because we've all had those experiences where, you know what, we may have to terminate this contract.
Oh, yeah.
It's not working out. But just to circle back to what you were saying about how we...
the process.
That process is so that once we figure out we're a good fit, hey, then yeah, we're going to move forward. And I like to have an in-person then meeting where we sit down and talk about all the details of your wedding. I like to understand what the groom wants, what the bride wants. And, sometimes my clients are like, oh, it's what about what I want? But I'm like, the groom is a part of this too. He has to have his say, because it's not just your wedding, it's our wedding, right? So just sitting down and really kind of understanding them as a couple and as individuals, and figuring out how to incorporate them as a couple and them as individuals, so they feel like this is really our wedding. Whether it's like having their favorite cookie as the favor, or if he likes cigars, maybe having a cigar roller at the wedding, or if she really loves pink flowers but he really doesn't, trying to figure out how can we incorporate both of their personalities into the wedding. And then what was the other part of your question?
Well, it was if you have an example. I mean, you just gave a few, little examples, but if you have an example of a particular wedding client, and how you took the vision and kind of or figured out what it was and put together all the elements of the personality and manifested it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So then I'm on the same page with you. Yeah. So just trying to figure out how to manifest all those ideas that they may have. We put together a design board for the client that outlines how their wedding is going to look from start to finish, whether that's their invitation, the rest of their event stationery, how the ceremony will be designed, cocktail hour, reception, and so forth. And from there, once that's approved from the client, we then move forward with booking vendors that will align with what we're trying to create.
Yeah. What's the hardest part, Lauren, about what you do? Being an event planner, designer. What is the part you still struggle with?
I would say sometimes it's hard to match my creativity with a budget.
I relate to that big time. Yeah.
Because I really want to, go all out, do something fun and creative, but then I have budget constraints, or the client is not willing to take that risk with me.
Right.
And they're like, but I love this white and gold wedding that I've been seeing everywhere for the past 4 years. And I want my wedding to be white and gold too. And I'm just like, how many more white and gold weddings can we see? There's so many more colors in the spectrum. Like, let's be fun. Let's be creative. And then what happens is when you have that client that is willing to take that leap of faith, then you set a trend. And then now you get a bunch of brides who are like, oh, I want that red and black wedding that you did. And then you have to figure out how to say, no, we're going to create something specific for you. But I find that I have the hardest time trying to convince clients to maybe consider their favorite colors or try different color palettes and not go with what they see all the time.
Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about that. I mean, again, that you can't realize all of your vision given the budget. This is very different, but for some reason I'm thinking about this. I used to be a songwriter, and I remember studying with big hit songwriters. We would talk about what it would take to do that. And, there's a certain amount of formula, but the big hit writers are super creative. And I'll never forget one of them who had a whole bunch of number one hit songs said, look, I know that there's this narrow confine within which I need to work, for a typical kind of song. And the challenge is being so different and so creative within that confine. And it actually helped him to write these big hit songs, So it's interesting. I agree with you. It's definitely a challenge for me too, when I want to do something so much more and the budget limits it. And then I'll just go try to chill out and take a break, take a walk or something. And get these epiphanies. I love getting these epiphanies about, this is what I can do within that budget,
Yeah.
Many of our past guests, including Brian Raffinelli, Cece Johnson, Colin Cowie, and Lynn Easton, all use Party Slate to showcase their event work and build their businesses. And if you're not familiar with Party Slate, it's a website that inspires people planning events and connects them with the leading event professionals and venues across the country and the world. This is a really, really great website. You can sign up for a free profile where you can upload unlimited photos and events, or you can explore one of their membership options for even more exposure. And Party Slate has launched in 11 cities so far, including Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Dallas, and Miami. And they are coming to a city near you soon. Visit partyslate.com to learn more. Again, you really got to check out partyslate.com. What about handling challenges that come out? I mean, I know that every single event, certainly a wedding, something's going to go wrong, right? Like I even tell my clients not to scare them, but it's more like a conversation of saying, look, something, there's going to be something. You need to just relax and trust the team, trust your planner, trust the music person, trust the photographer. We're going to handle it. What are some of the really difficult challenges that you've come across, and how did you get over it? You got any good ones?
I'm trying.
I'm rubbing my hands here. I'm ready.
Yeah. I would say, and this may be, but I think this is probably the best one. So I had a wedding at a beautiful venue in Brooklyn called Wheelan. It's a bank that was restored to an event space. And this venue, it's like, you got to bring everything in and the kitchen sink. Like there's nothing there. Tables, they've got everything. And this also goes back to like, not every client is your client. And I really wanted to work with this client, and they wanted to work with me too. But there was something that was telling me like, this isn't the one. It's just not going to work. But it was going to be great because I wanted to work at that venue. Well, long story short, so many things went wrong that wedding day. I can't even begin to tell you. But the biggest thing was the bride's hair and makeup took way too long, and she was 2 hours late for her ceremony.
Oh my God. What? 2 hours?
2 hours late for her ceremony.
Oh.
And instead of taking accountability, she blamed me, all the vendors, everybody for why she was 2 hours late. And why the rest of the wedding day had to be altered and adjusted, because if you're 2 hours late and you're having an hour ceremony, that just pushes our whole timeline.
Oh, I don't know how you handle two. I mean, it's one thing to handle a half hour, but 2 hours? Wow.
Our
Wow.
whole timeline went into the garbage. And we had to make it work. A lot of guests left, but at the church, I had a whole team there, just kind of offering water, light refreshments, because they were having like a small service afterwards at the church, before the guests went over to the wedding venue. So just offering them that and letting them know that they were on the way. Because then on top of that, they still had to have their first look, take their
Oh
pictures,
my gosh.
jazz before the sunset. I mean, there was just a list of things. And then we get to the reception, and they're expecting the same timeline that we went over to happen. And I'm like, no, we have to cut things out. And unfortunately, in the moment, I was like, well, it's either you're going to do your mom's speech that you wanted, or we're going to cut your cake. Can't do both.
Right. Right.
If you want a party, because
Yeah.
at this point, they want to dance, they want a good time.
Yeah.
I also said we probably gonna have to take out bouquet and garter toss, because all that stuff, it doesn't sound like it takes a long time, but all that stuff takes a lot of time.
Well, just gathering the crowd together for this stuff, that alone takes 5-10 minutes.
Exactly. And then, it's like pulling teeth, especially for the guys to do the garter toss.
Right.
The women are like readily.
They're ready. Oh, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
But the men, it's so funny.
Right. So that whole thing could take, a toast, several toasts, bouquet and garter toss, and cake cutting, that all can take about almost an hour. If you think about it, 40 minutes minimum, right? Depending on how long the toasts are. So I was like, we have to pick one.
Right.
And I say, let's cut your cake, right?
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the night, Lauren, I'm devastated. We didn't have toast. My mom didn't speak. I am so upset. Well, our hands are tied. Like I told you, you had to make a choice. You wanted to dance. So it was either have more time for dancing or more time for all these formalities. And you made that choice. Well, guess what? The client ended up suing the entire vendor team.
Oh, no. Oh.
Every last one of them, because they were upset about their wedding. Well, but guess what? We get to court after so many delays, and they lose because it's your fault.
Right. But what a stressful thing for you to have to go through. Oh my gosh.
Yes, it was extremely stressful. And then this goes back to that point that if your gut tells you like this isn't the right one, go with it.
There you go. Right. Oh, so you had that gut feeling about her early.
About them as a couple early on. I did. And I said, you know what? I think I just want to back out. But my other side of me, that other side that taps on your shoulder, that soft tap that says, no, keep the client. You're going to work it out because this is going to be great for, other referrals and other things like that. And it's a great venue. You want to get pictures from that venue. And it wasn't worth it.
This makes me think, God, I don't know if I should talk about this, but look, I feel that I could work with anybody, but I agree with you. There's certain points. And there was this one, actually, there was a planner. And this only happened once in decades of where I got to this point where the planner was actually very big. I'm not going to say who it was, but it was a big planner regionally who was so absolutely impossible, nasty. I mean, I remember being in the green room and, with the various, I hate calling them vendors. Well, creative partners, creative partners. Yeah, creative partners in the green. And some of them were talking about, I can't wait for this to be over. And I thought to myself, you know what? I was feeling the same way because of the planner. And then I thought, I wait a minute, I'm here for the couple. And I said something to the other people. And I said, look, we all got to help each other out because we're still here for the client ultimately. But I decided I was not going to accept any more jobs through this one planner. And it's the only time it ever happened in my life. And, I remember friends of mine saying, how can you do that? The business and this person is so big. And I'm like, I am not going to be treated that way. I can't do my best. And even my band felt the tension and the stress. But, I'm not going to give the details, but it was really crazy. And so, yeah, I think that that's really critical. I want to also move on to another topic, building a business. We talked about you being an entrepreneur and taking the leap, but to manage a successful business like you have, Lauren, and I know, we don't have to necessarily talk about COVID, but I know at least pre-COVID, you had around 5 members of your team or something like that. How do you feel about having the business side and as a creative person, I mean, it's one thing I struggle with. There's certain aspects of, I mean, I now have a business partner, which has taken care of a lot of my weaknesses. But when I was the sole entrepreneur, there were certain aspects of business I really struggled with because all I wanted to do is be creative. How do you look at that?
Well, I still have the same team, and two of those people on my team are also my personal assistants. So they help balance. One of them strictly is a personal assistant to me, but I would say she helps balance the creative business side because I can be more creative and she can handle all the business because the business can be daunting. It can be stressful. It can be annoying. And that's why I say to a lot of up and coming planners that, and even if I have a bride that says, "Oh, I want to be a planner now," I'm like, "Girl, you have no clue what you're getting."
Right.
You just see the pretty side of things.
Right.
There's a whole business side of this that is a lot of work. And, when you leave your 9 to 5 or whatever time frame you leave, that's it. That job stays there. As an entrepreneur, your job is with you 24/7. Now, obviously, you create those parameters, but if something's going on at a wedding, like if one of my team members has a wedding and I don't necessarily have to be there because it's their wedding, but if something goes wrong, guess what? They're going to call me in the middle of the night and I have to answer the phone and figure out how to problem solve. So, it's hard. I would say, yes, I'm able to be creative as much as I can, but there's still a lot of business that no matter what, I have to attend to it.
Yeah, I think it's good for people to know, we all, or many of us are struggling with that dichotomy between the two. It's something we've got to embrace. I mean, what I've realized, Lauren, is that, I mean, again, part of the way I kind of avoided a little bit of it was having this business partner. But, look, I've got the podcast business. I mean, I do have a team, but still it's like I'm coming to, it's taking me time, but to embrace the business aspect of it, to look at it that way. What about just a couple more topics? What about your pricing philosophy? I mean, do you have a flat fee? Do you charge a percentage? How do you look at that?
I charge a flat fee. And then obviously, if the scale of the event increases or there's things that are added on, I charge additional for it. I know a lot of people still do the percentage, but I find that percentage can be a little tricky because, you have that percentage that you're charging. And then if things change, then you're going to be adding on another percentage. And also, I just like to charge a flat fee so that the client doesn't feel like that I'm constantly upcharging them.
But what if they're, they end up wanting so much more, services than originally agreed? How do you handle that? Do you say something and charge more? Exactly.
So within the set price in that package, there's a whole list of things that we're going to do within that package. But if they decide that they want us to plan another event, let's say a day after brunch, and that's a separate contract, a separate service. It's not a part of the service that you got in your package.
Got it.
So I charge separately for that.
Okay. I also want to ask about social media. You do really well with it. I noticed even just Instagram alone, you've got something like 60,000 followers or something. How do you feel about social media? What is your strategy with that?
I hate social media.
Me too. Thank God I finally found a comrade in arms. Yeah.
If I did not have to have social media, I would not have social media.
But you're killing it there. You're doing great.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not any it's not any tools that I'm following. It's just it was naturally grown over 10 years now, right? Almost 10 years. I think I started Instagram maybe in 2011.
Yeah.
So it just was naturally grown. And I, had some celebrity events, and I think them tagging me in their posts also helped increase my followers. Partnering with different magazines helped increase my followers.
What kind of partnership? What do you mean? Part with magazines?
Say, for instance, if I'm doing a styled shoot for them, they're obviously going to post that styled shoot to their page and then tag the various.
I got you.
Right, exactly. And then if there's a popular video or picture that I post that kind of gets circulated around Instagram, then you also get a lot of followers that way too. So other pages may say, "Oh, that's such a pretty wedding, I want to repost it to my followers. Like that you have some pages like the brides or the Munalucci bridal that reposts different things. Yeah, that helps too.
Yeah. So if you were giving a master class, to let's say people that are experienced, but want to get to that next level as a planner and designer, what are some of the main tips that you feel they need to focus on?
I would say don't focus so much on your Instagram. Well, some people will say that they get majority of their business from Instagram, but you also get a lot of business from referrals and connections that you have within the industry. So I would say you need to make sure that you make a point to manage all of that.
Yeah, got it. And anything else? And anything else you think that someone who wants to get to that next level really needs to focus on?
They also need to work on scaling their business. I would say once you've kind of figured out how to run your business well, hire on some staff and train that staff really well to the point that they can bring in their own business or have business that doesn't necessarily qualify for your rates, but you can offer them to your assistant planners.
Yeah.
That is another way you can scale your business within the industry. I think that a lot of planners don't realize that. But, you may have a client that has an XYZ budget that doesn't really fit with your budget, but why turn them away when you have up and coming staff that can work with them and within their budget? Because obviously there's planners for every budget, let's just say.
And what about for wedding couples? Like what do you think some of the top issues are that they need to focus on when working with their planner or designer?
I would say allow them to be creative, but within reason to things that you like, obviously, not to the point where they're creating a wedding that you hate, but just trust them. But then I will also say that make sure you're hiring the right planner and designer, because if you don't trust them, then you're not going to have a good wedding planning experience or event planning experience.
Yeah, it comes back, like you said earlier at the very beginning, it comes back to that personal connection, right? I mean, that's the heart.
Yeah, make sure you have a connection and that you're hiring a professional. Read their reviews, do some referrals. Make sure you're hiring the right person, because then that will lead you to trusting them. But if you're hiring someone who's new at this, who doesn't have good experience, then you're going to have those trust issues and kind of micromanage. And micromanaging is not great for a planner.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're like, your wedding, right? You're thinking about your wedding 24/7. Well, guess what? This planner has 20, 30 other clients that he or she also has to think about. So they're not thinking about your wedding 24/7. So just kind of managing those expectations and knowing that your planner has been doing this for X amount of years and has the experience, and it's going to guide you and make sure that you're staying on track. So also another issue that I find for planners and couples is that couples will go on to the Knot or brides.com and get these kind of guides as to how their planning process should work. That's unrealistic, because let's say the guide starts at 12 months, but you're hiring your planner at 6 months. Where you are at 6 months is not where you're going to be in that guide, because you're starting fresh. Right. So you use this guide to kind of say, okay, well, we're supposed to be doing this, but yeah, that was for someone who had 12 or 24 months to plan. Our timeline looks way different from the timeline that you get from these guides, So I say go, and that goes back to just trusting your planner and knowing that they've done this and that everything may not be so cookie cutter and that you just need to flow and go with it.
Yeah. And last question, for you, Lauren, like, what does success mean to you? What's most important in all of this?
I say success means to me that I've been able to scale my business and that I don't have to be at every wedding that my company books. That is success to me, because if you're booked every single weekend, you're not charging enough. You've not scaled your business, because you have to have a life.
Yeah, I love what you're saying here. And I love what you said just before that if you have too many jobs, you're not charging enough. I love that. So many people just give it away, and that's it just dilutes everything in the industry.
Exactly. And so I tell planners all the time, and even vendors, you should be raising your rates every 2 years, if not every year, depending on your market. But every 2 years, you should be considering how to raise your rates, how to elevate your services. Because if enough of us raise our rates, then everyone else under us will have to raise their rates, and the clients will have to meet us there.
Right.
They just have to meet you there, because it's a lot goes into what we do. And the client doesn't get to see that day to day because they're doing their own work, their own job, right? But they're not seeing all the work that we do behind the scenes for their wedding or event. And it is a lot of work. And so going back to your question, success for me is being able to scale my business and not being at every single wedding that my company has. That was like the icing on the cake for me. One day, my team was having a wedding and I was like, gosh, I don't have to be here because they got it.
Right, right. Well, Lauren, this has been so nice getting to know you more and talking through this, how you do your business. I really appreciate it. This has been a blast.
Same here, Andy. And thank you for always thinking of me and being patient with me.
My pleasure. Really. Very well worth it. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Lauren Dickens. Check out her website, which is elleaudrey.com. That's spelled ELLEAUDREW.com. Her Facebook and Instagram handle is Elle Audrey New York. You can get all of this in the show notes at our website of theweddingbiz.com. And I would appreciate it if you could think of 3 friends who you think would benefit and enjoy listening to this interview of Lauren. And if you could share it with them, that would be wonderful. And if you could also give a great review wherever you get your podcasts from, that really helps people find the show as well and would mean a lot to me. Also, don't forget to check out our follow-on segment that comes out every Wednesday called The Next Level, in which I have a guest co-host. And together we tease out some of the highlights of the interview and then talk about them in a way that can help you raise your own business to the next level. And this week's guest co-host is going to be Lisa Zachary, CEO and creative director of Papered Wonders. So be sure to check in on Wednesday. And finally, I want to thank our sponsor again, Party Slate. Be sure to check them out at partyslate.com, and we'll catch you next week on The Wedding Biz.